Chaitanya Vallabha Girivaradhare Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhare Yasodhanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yasodhanandana Vrajajana Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnu Paramhamsa Bhaktivedanta Sarahara Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Sansapakachaya Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Guri Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namah Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Gaura Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasagura Bhaktavinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Prabhu Gopinath Shankunda Radha Kunda Girivaranga Jai, Vrindavanam Jai, Maturadam Jai, Navitam Jai, Yamanamai Ki Jai, Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktavinda Ki Jai, Gaura Kavaranga. All glories to the Son of Krishna, all glories to the Son of Krishna, all glories to the Son of Devotees, all glories to the Son of So we continue with the Transcendental Diary by Hari Swami Prabhu. So Srila Prabhupada at this time, he is still in Aligarh, India. Prabhupada sat back and with a sideways tip of his head brought the short darshan to a close. Thank you. Prabhupada came up with that. He always said, thank you. After class, and also when there were some visitors, he always said, thank you. I said, thank you for coming, for giving me the opportunity to preach to you. As the devotee dispersed, Surendra hung back to express his appreciation of Srila Prabhupada's comments. As you rightly said, that these Vaishnavas, they want to become Mata Deshas. They want to become like kings. They don't want to they don't want to leave their empire and go out, work hard like you, and spreading the message of Lord Krishna. Prabhupada was happy that he had caught his move. Yes, that is our mission. That is the right attitude. Surendra continued, even if there is one bhakta, that is Vrindavan. Telling him that a bhakta creates Vrindavan, Prabhupada concluded, Krishna says, I do not stay in Vaikuntha. Naham tishtami Vaikunte, yoginam hidayesha. Padma Purana. Neither I stay at the core of the heart of the yogis. Tatra tishtami, narada yatra, kayandri madhubhakta. When my pure devotee chants the glories of I immediately stay there. I immediately stay. It's not that he is packed up in some place. He is all pervading. Therefore his name is Vasudeva. Ishvaram ida sattva. Ishvaram idam sarvam. He's everywhere. Electricity is everywhere. Only one who knows how to take the electricity. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was preaching and teaching. Their effect you have to follow. Then our life will be successful. We don't manufacture ideas. That is not wanted. He said that some Hindus had manufactured the idea that if one goes overseas, he becomes fallen. He shook his head in consternation because it was just the opposite of what Lord Krishna had said. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Pravite achayata nagaradi grama. Foolish theories, just see. As soon as you cross over the Bay of Bengal or Indian Ocean, you become immediately fallen. Citing the history of one politician who was invited to attend a conference overseas, he contrasted that with his own endeavor, he took so much Ganga earth. Citing the history of one politician who was invited to attend a conference overseas, he contrasted that with his own endeavors, he took so much Ganges earth. He was mixing that Ganges earth with water. He is going for political purposes and showing what is called hobby. This is not that. Now this movement is there. And unless we do it very sincerely and vigorously, it cannot be pushed on. That's so Prabhupada is citing, no? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that this movement should actually be spread all over the world. We shouldn't keep it for ourselves, just preoccupied for our own advancement. No, actually it says that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the most merciful incarnation of God, the most merciful avatar. In Spanish, when you say incarnation, it's very different. You become meat. Become meat.
Encarnación.
Yeah, incarnation. Yeah, carne. Se vuelve carne, no?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And religion actually means going back to the origin. No? Religar.
Sí,
Reconnect with the source of everything. Anyway, so Prabhupada was very eager to see. He was not just interested in his own advancement, but he was very much inspired to carry this mission everywhere in the world. I remember in the end, in 76, Pavel had already made plans to go to Brazil and to go to Argentina, but then he couldn't travel anymore. In South America, he only went to Mexico 2 times, and he went once to Venezuela, Caracas. And so, he was always traveling. In the beginning, he came all alone. Imagine a person 70 years old, changing his life, coming to the West, coming to, like I always say, like coming to New York, the center of Kali Yuga, and coming from Vrindavan, the most sacred place on this planet. There's a book about the activities of Srila Prabhupada before he came, living in Vrindavan like that. And the author is showing that actually when Prabhupada was living in Vrindavan, he became a very respected Vaishnava. Because they started noticing Prabhupada was very learned, he was very realized, Vigyan, a lot of realized knowledge. And sometimes when important people came to Vrindavan, like a politician or something like that, they would bring into Srila Prabhupada to explain it. I have photos of Prabhupada speaking to these, surrounded by the Vrajabasis, by some Vrindavan inhabitants like that. But he left this nice place and went to the West. This is actually, like Prabhupada always said, this is actually our mission. Just like he said, like when the son grows up, the father is very eager to how you say, that he continue with the business, the family business. And in the same way, Prabhupada also expressed that, as a spiritual master, as our founder Acharya, he was also eager that his disciples or his followers would also take up the mission and spread Krishna consciousness. Be it at the place where you live, or if you're not so much entangled with family life and all this, you should go out, go to places where they have never heard about Krishna. I remember there was a conversation once with Prabhupada somewhere, I don't know where, and so at one point Srila Prabhupada said, was speaking about the importance of preaching, and he mentioned that those who go to the Muslim countries to preach, they get a special mercy, and get a special attention. Very difficult to go to those places. And I remember at that time when the devotees heard that, they immediately got a van to go there, to travel in those countries. There was a special mood at the time when Srila Prabhupada was there. Everyone was very eager to travel and spread Krishna consciousness, go to places where people had never heard about Krishna consciousness. Like I mentioned many times, like Trivikram Maharaj, at that time. He told me that once Prabhupada, he was with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, you go to Japan now. And Bhujan also, he got the instruction to go to Hong Kong. And in this way, Prabhupada was interested sometimes when they wrote reports to Srila Prabhupada about some monthly report or something. And Prabhupada was interested in special things. He was always interested. How many new devotees you made? How many books were distributed? How many new temples you opened? This was what Prabhupada wanted to hear. So this is actually what Prabhupada is expressing here also. The disciples, I remember the disciple name now, and he told him, actually, Prabhupada, you are the real example of the mission, of the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because you don't stay just in one place, but you're always traveling, eager to go to new places. At that time, Prabhupada also went to Iran, to Persia at that time. His name was Persia. And he even spoke to some Muslims. Some scholars came to see Srila Prabhupada. And well, anyway, so and also we were at one point in the 60s, 70s. Some devotees had gone from Germany. Harikesh became the GBC also for Lebanon and places like that. And then he sent devotees there. And in Lebanon there was a civil war at that time. I remember Bhakti Vaibhav, his name was Avinash Chandra at that time. He went with some other devotees, said he was distributing in Beirut books, like Bhagavad Gita even. Yeah. And then so many problems happened there. They disappeared. Didn't have any contact with them anymore. Because some of the terrorists took them and kept them in prison. And because I thought they were doing some underground work, something there, or assisting the Jewish people in the Jewish state. And then after a while we heard also that they came back, and wow. And then Harikesh decided, now no more, you don't go there, it was too dangerous for you. It was too dangerous. At one point Ravinari was actually from Palestinian. And he came as a how you say, refugee, kind of immigrant to Germany. He lived in Berlin, and he was a Haarschneider. What is that? Haircutter? Yeah. Huh? Yeah. So, and he became a devotee, and he started translating the Bhagavad Gita. The Arabian books, they go the other way. You start in the end. We go like this, and they go like. Yeah. And at one point, Harikesh visited him. They were staying at his place, and at night they're both saying Gayatri mantra. And all of a sudden, BAM! Big explosion in the neighborhood there. And Harikesh got up and Ravinari just continued. And after that, they looked out the window what had happened, and they had destroyed the house, their neighbor's house. It wasn't there anymore. Yeah. That was the situation at that time. Yeah. And we had devotees preaching in those places. Yeah. Of course, at that time we were much younger. So when you're younger, you're always eager to have some adventure. We're eager to travel and go and preach in places where nobody had ever heard about Krishna consciousness. It was actually a very special feeling that you got, some special ecstasy when you went to places where people had never heard about the devotees, or never seen the devotees. Yeah. Anyway, so I don't want to extend it unnecessarily. Let's continue with the Srimad Bhagavatam. Kann jemand das mal anstecken nachher? Ich muss halt raussuchen, ich weiß nicht mehr.
Was du auflesen?
Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Which verse was it?
54.
Huh? 54. Okay. So we continue with the Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto. The 7th canto tells us about Singadeva, Prahlad Maharaj, various chapters, like they also reading it in their meeting. All these things they're reading from the 7th canto. Yeah. And here we're hearing about, I think they are, what chapter are they now? Anyone knows? Nobody participates, right? No. Okay, so now here we're hearing about the prayers. No, not the prayers, the teachings, that Prahlad Maharaj gave to his schoolmates. So we continue. Daiteya yaksha rakshamsi Shriya Shudra Vachaukashaha Agamriga Papa Jiva Santihi Achyutatangataha Daitesha Yaksha Rakshamsi Sri Ashudra Vachaukashaha Agamriga Papa Jiva Shantihi Achyutatangataha
Daiteya yaksha rakshamsi Shriya Shudra Vachaukasha Kagamriga Papa Jiva Shantihi Achyutatam Gataha
Daiteya yaksha rakshamsi
Daiteya Yaksha Rakshamsi
Shriya Shudra Vachaukasha Santihi Achyutatam Gataha
Daiteya yaksha rakshamsi
Shriya
Shudra Vachaukasha Kagamriga Papa Jiva Santi Achyutatam Gata Daiteya yaksha rakshamsi Shriya Shudra Vachaukasha Kagamriga Papa Jiva Santi Achyutatam Gata
Daiteya
Daiteya
O demons
O demons
Yaksha Rakshamsi
Rakshamsi
The living entities known as the Yakshas and Rakshasas
The living entities known as the Yakshas and Rakshasas
Striya women Shudra
Shudra
the labor class
the laborer class
Raja Akasha
Rakshasa
village cowherd man
village tower man
Kaga
Kaga
birds
Mriga
animals Papa Jiva sinful living entities Santi can become he certainly Achyutatam the qualities of Achyuta the Supreme Lord Gata obtained translation O my friends, O son of demons, everyone, including you, the Rakshasas and Rakshasas, the unintelligent women, Shudras and cowherd men, the birds, the lower animals, and the sinful living entities, can revive his original eternal spiritual life and exist forever simply by accepting the principles of Bhakti Yoga. Purport. The devotees are referred to as Achyuta Gotra, or the dynasty of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord is called Achyuta, as indicated in Bhagavad Gita, Senayor Uvayo Madhye Ratam Stapaya Me Chuta. The Lord is infallible in the material world because he is a supreme spiritual person. Similarly, the jivas are part and parcel of the Lord can also become infallible. Although Prahlad's mother was in the conditioned state and was the wife of a demon, even yakshas, rakshasas, women, shudras, and even birds and other lower living entities can be elevated to the Achyuta Gotra, the family of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the highest perfection. As Krishna never falls, when we revive our spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness, we never fall again to material existence. One should understand the position of the Supreme Acharya, Krishna, who says in Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma chamadivyam evam yuvekta tatvataha tyaktva buddha janma naiti mameti sojuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take its birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. One should understand Achyuta, the Supreme Infallible, and how we are related with him, and one should take to the service of the Lord. This is the perfection of life. Srila Madhvacharya says, Achyutatam Chuta Varjanam. The words Achyutatam refers to one who never falls to this material world, but always remains in the Vaikuntha world, fully engaged in the service of the Lord. Om Aginati Vedandasya Sri Chaitanya Madhustan Savitangira Bhutale Swayam Nivadabandayam Dadati Satadantikam. So repeat the verse again. Daiteya Yaksharaksangsi Shri Ashudra Vachaukasaha Kagamiva Papajiva Santihi Achutatam Vataha. O my friends, O sons of demons, everyone including you, the yakshas and rakshasas, the unintelligent women, shudras and cowherd men, the birds, the lower animals, and the sinful living entities, can revive his original, eternal spiritual life and exist forever simply by accepting the principles of Bhakti Yoga. So he's speaking to his friends who were born in the families of demons, yakshas and rakshasas. And he says, he's explaining here, if any of these unfortunate souls start practicing Bhakti Yoga, and how is this done? That this is done by hearing about Krishna. Shravanam Kirtanam, Krishna. Shravanam means hearing, and then repeating what one has heard. And then it says Shravanam Kirtanam, Vishnu. One should hear about what and speak about what? About Vishnu, about Krishna. And it says, whoever does that has association with devotees and is in the situation that he can hear from them. Then it says can revive his original eternal spiritual life and exist forever simply by accepting the principles of Bhakti Yoga. Bhaktyam avajananti yavanas chasvita tuvam tatado yatva vashate tadavantaram. In the 18th chapter, Krishna is saying, one can only understand me by Bhakti Yoga. Only. There's no other way. It says that by studying the Upanishads, one can realize the Brahman, the impersonal Brahman. By practicing yoga, one can realize, if one actually does yoga, as it is, not inventing or deluding things, one can actually realize the Paramatma within the heart. And if one practices loving devotional service to Krishna, he can realize the Supreme Personality of God. And if one keeps on hearing, naturally one understands many things. That's why Prabhupada cites the verse here, Janma karma chani vidyam evam yuveti tatvata tyaktvati puna janma naiti mamita sojana. If a person can understand the Janma karma chamidivyam, the transcendental nature of the appearance, Janma, and activities, karma, janma karma, chame divyam, that he qualifies himself to go back to God. Now, what does that mean? Because the activities, the birth of Krishna and his activities are very different, different to our activities. When we are born, we are pushed by our karma to accept certain conditions here. According to our previous activities, by our karma, we are forced to enter into certain situation, certain family, gotra, how would I say? Gotra. This word gotra is very important in India. Yes. Often people ask, what gotra are you? What family do you belong? And they have these millenary families. Like very, 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 very old traditions. And so people like, in India, people are used to the gotra. He's from that gotra. He comes from that gotra. So then Achyuta Gotra, Achyuta Gotra. Achyuta, Prabhupada says, refers to somebody who never falls down. And that's why it's also name of Krishna, Achyuta Gotra. Krishna is eternal. And he never comes under the influence of the material nature. He's never under the influence of the modes of nature like us. We are always controlled by the mode of goodness, or passion, or ignorance. And we cannot become free from this influence. Prabhupada gives the example, the gunas are like strict, what is that?
Ropes.
Huh?
Like ropes?
Like rope, yeah. And it's just like these,
Ropes?
No, stricken.
Stricken ropes.
Soga. Comment is that?
Soga, yeah.
In English.
Rope.
Yeah. And normally there's not just one string, but they're woven together. And in the same way, we also, the guna actually means this. And when you tie it with ropes, then let's say somebody has tied you up on your hands and your legs, the foot also, and put something so you can speak either. Then you cannot free yourself by yourself. Somebody has to come who is not bound up like that. He can help you to get free. In the same way, we are all bound up by the gunas, and we need somebody to untie us, undo the knot, who's not bound by the gunas. Just like Prabhupada. He was a liberated, was a liberated person. He came and untied us, helped us to get free from the entanglement with the gunas. Actually, the Vedic system, Vedic system of liberation is normally a very, very gradual process, life after life. You start with karma yoga, pious activities, karma yoga. Then you come to jnana yoga. You gradually start waking up, so to say. You become more philosophical, able to understand Shastra, like that. Then, as you become more and more detached, you becoming used to practice austerities, like following the regulated principles, especially the 4 regulated principles. Become more enlightened. You're ready to practice yoga as it is, Ashtanga yoga. And if you practice Ashtanga yoga as it is, not as it is presented nowadays. Actually, Ashtanga yoga as it is, like I mentioned the other day, like Valmiki Muni, he was a compiler of the Ramayana. It says that he practiced yoga or meditation for 60,000 years. And then he was instructed by his spiritual master to compile the Ramayana. Prabhupada insisted very much that Ramayana of Valmiki Muni, not by, I remember, I think it was Tulsi. In India, the Ramayana of Tulsi is very famous. And Srila Prabhupada mentioned that actually he was not presenting Ramayana as it is. He presented with a touch of impersonalism. Like that. So one has to be fortunate to associate or to come in contact with liberated soul. Like a person like Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada came under the instruction of his guru. No, he came to the West. And under because he had faith, unshakable faith in the instruction of his spiritual master, he was successful. Actually, everything was based, all his success, everything was based on following the instruction of the spiritual master. At their first meeting, Bhakti Siddhanta, without knowing them even, they have never seen each other. He was speaking to some people, preaching to some people. When he saw the two young boys coming, Prabhupada and his friend, he stopped talking. And immediately told them, you seem to be, you are young, educated boys. Why don't you take the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the West and preach in English? I remember repeated that so many times, sorry. And Prabhupada immediately started arguing with the spiritual man. He said, first we have to liberate India from the British. We are a colony, nobody will take us serious. And Bhakti Siddhanta immediately refuted this argument. Prabhupada was very impressed. Wow. He kept thinking of this Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. And started associating with his disciples. And in this way he developed more and more faith in Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. Because they started telling him all kinds of things about their spiritual master, preaching and this and that. So, this was in 1921. 1921, we met Bhakti Siddhanta. And then 11 years later, in 32, he was initiated. He wasn't initiated just like that. But actually he felt that, wow, I'm not ready yet. I have to put myself in a condition to be accepted by the spiritual master. We also have this in ISKCON. In the beginning, Prabhupada was very liberal. Initiated so many devotees. Having faith in Krishna, that Krishna will help them. Faith, like that. Like we were also initiated like that. First time, we saw Srila Prabhupada. We had the opportunity to speak to Srila Prabhupada. We asked Srila Prabhupada if we can become a disciple also. And Prabhupada, like in India, when they say yes, I make that. And then, a few days later, there was Janmashtami, and Prabhupada made an initiation ceremony. He initiated 5 devotees. 5 devotees. Yes, but in due course of time, as the movement was growing and devotees becoming more Krishna conscious, then Prabhupada put the standard higher and higher and higher and higher. Like 1 year waiting. First accept the shelter of the spiritual master. This is actually the time, a year, or sometimes less than a year. That the spiritual master and the new disciple, the future disciple, get to know each other. That means they have to test each other. The disciple has to hear and study And Prabhupada said that actually the person, that person should become the spiritual master, that one, amongst all the different persons that one has heard, that one inspires one to surrender completely, with full faith. That this is sure, that this is actually the person I can surrender completely. Because this is required when you accept the spiritual life. That you surrender, you rascal, surrender. Give up your so-called independence and become a servant of your spiritual life. Yeah, like that. So for a year, normally a year, one studies. And then the spiritual master also does it. We in ISKCON we have this system of recommendation. There have to be older devotees who recommend the new candidate for initiation. It's not that one lives like whatever or whenever or wherever. Nobody knows what's going on, and all of a sudden the person initiates. It's a gradual process. And Prabhupada showed us this. He met a spiritual master in 21. And he was initiated 32, 11 years later. And when when the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta introduced Prabhupada to Bhaktisiddhanta, recommended for initiation, Bhaktisiddhanta said, yes, I know this is young boy. He likes to hear. Interesting, huh? Hear, to hear. And Prabhupada commenting on this, he said, because Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati spoke a very elaborate English. At that time it was known as the Victorian English. Very high, very developed English. And he spoke Victorian English. And that's why it was difficult sometimes for the people to understand. And the British, he had also contacted some British people, preaching to them. They were impressed that he spoke even better English than them. About his incredible English. And so Prabhupada mentioned, sometimes I understood, sometimes not. But I always remained. I continued hearing. Just like it's mentioned that when Prabhupada, there was a big pilgrimage. They had organized a huge pilgrimage. I don't know where. I don't remember where. But so that all the disciples and the followers of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati went with him to that place. And then Prabhupada mentioned that, I think it was the last day. So that the last day of the pilgrimage, there was an announcement made. And it was said that, well, you all go at Parikram, and Guru Maharaj, or Prabhupada, they also called him Prabhupada, Prabhupada remain here and speak, give a class. And then Prabhupada noticed that very few devotees remained here to hear. They all went to Parikram. And that's why, it seems, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said that, oh yes, I know this is wrong. This young guy, this young boy, he likes to hear. And Prabhupada even sometimes mentions that even if you don't understand, if you hear the transcendental sound vibration, it also has its effect. We might not understand the Sanskrit, but still we become purified. Especially when it's presented by a person with deep realizations. Just like chanting also. We might chant Hare Krishna, and do all kinds of other things at the same time with your mind. It has its effect, yes. But if there's somebody chanting who is pure, does not commit all these offenses that we all hear about all day, every day, then it has a different effect, just like Prabhupada. When Prabhupada chanted, he's chanted a long time. Sometimes Prabhupada gave a class in front of a lot of people, No? And Prabhupada noticed that they started asking weird questions also, not related to what Prabhupada had said. Sometimes when we speak about it before a group, Hare Krishna. When we speak before a group, then in the end, they ask questions normally. And instead of asking questions related to the topic, they ask, how do you get your money? How do and things like that. No relation to whatever with the class. That's why Srila Prabhupada sometimes said, you have a question related to what I said, to the topics that I was referring. And if the weird questions went on, Prabhupada stopped and said, Kirtan! Make Kirtan! And then again he asked, any question? And if they want a question, okay, continue Kirtan. That's it. Anyway, so here, it's mentioned, like I mentioned before, Gotra. Gotra is a very important word in India, isn't it? Gotra? What is your Gotra?
Patlavat.
Huh?
Patlavat.
Patlavat. Yeah. So, they know how to answer. Yeah, I'm Patlavat. So anyway, I can't read the clock. It's a nice clock, but it's difficult to read. What is the time? I cannot see.
22.
Huh?
22 now.
22. Okay. So, I'll continue here, reading a little more. Next verse. And I think this is now the conclusion of the chapter. Yes, it's the last verse of the chapter. Etavanneva lokesmin pungsa swarta parasmitaha ekanta bhakti govinde yat sarvatra tat dikshanam. In this material world, to render service to the lotus feet of Govinda, the cause of all causes, and to see him everywhere is the only goal of life. This much alone is the ultimate goal of human life, as explained by all the revealed scriptures. Purport. In this verse, the word Sarvatra Tat Dikshanam describes the highest perfection of devotional service, in which one sees everything with reference to Govinda's activities. The highly elevated devotee never sees anything unrelated to Govinda. Stavara Jangama Deke Na Deke Taramurti Sarvatra Haya Nija Ishtadeva Spurti. The Mahabhagavata, the advanced devotee, certainly sees everything mobile and immobile, but he does not exactly see their forms. Rather, everywhere he immediately sees manifests the form of the Supreme Lord. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 8, 274. Even in this material world, a devotee does not see materially manifested things. Instead, he sees Govinda in everything. When he sees a tree or human being, a devotee sees them in relation to Govinda. Govinda Maripurusham. Govinda is the original source of everything. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadidadid Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the supreme controller. He has an eternal, blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, for he is the prime cause of all causes. Brahma Samhita 5.1. The test of a perfect devotee is that he sees Govinda everywhere. In this universe, even in every atomic particle, Anantarasta Paramanu Charantayastum. This is the perfect vision of a devotee. It is therefore said, Narayana Mayam Dvitya Pashyanti Paramataya Jagadanamayam labha karvoka kamini mayam. A devotee sees everywhere, a devotee sees everyone and everything in relation to Narayanamayam. Everything is an expansion of Narayana's energies. Just as those who are greedy see everything as a source of money making, and those who are lusty see everything being conducive to sex. The most perfect devotee, Prahlad Maharaj, saw Narayan even within a stone column. This does not mean, however, that we must accept the words Daridra Narayan, which have been manufactured by some unscrupulous person. One who actually envisions Narayana everywhere makes no distinction between the poor and the rich. To single out the Daridra Narayan or poor Narayan and to reject the Dani Narayan or rich Narayan is not the vision of a devotee. Rather, that is the imperfect vision of materialistic persons. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 7th canto, 7th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled, What Prahlad Learned in the Womb. So in the end, Prahlad Maharaj, in his discourse before his classmates, he comes to the conclusion that this material world, in this material world, to render service to the lotus feet of Govinda, the cause of all causes, Sarva Karana Karanam, to see him everywhere is the only goal of life. This much alone is the ultimate goal of human life. It's explained by all the revealed scriptures. Bahunam jamanamanti jnanavamam papadyanti vasudeva savaniti samahatma sudhavama. It says, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, after many births and deaths, when one is fortunate, he gets real knowledge, he surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very, very rarely to be found. And they were very fortunate. These classmates of Prahlad were very fortunate to have him there. He's one of the Mahajans, of the 12 most important authorities in relation to the science of devotional service. And so, it says here in the purport, so it's meant, he sees Krishna everywhere, Narayan everywhere. And Prabhupada gave a very nice example in relation to this. When the mother comes into the room of the child, and the child isn't there, just by seeing the shoes and the articles of the child, she's completely overwhelmed by her love to the child. In the same way, everything, the ultimate issue, everything is related to Krishna. It's actually material energy is also Krishna. The energy is not different from the energetic. His name is not different from him. His words are not different from him. His activities are not. His devotees are not different from him. Actually, just like the guru, the spiritual master, he's supposed to represent Krishna. So he's actually, Prabhupada mentioned that he's the external manifestation of the Paramatma. Just like Prabhupada gave a nice example. He says like the mother is with the has finished cooking, and wants the child to eat, and the child is outside, and she calls the child, calls the name, but it doesn't pay attention. No, not outside. He's sitting in the room, but looking out. And so the mother goes out and says, "Come to eat." In this way, Prabhupada mentioned that Paramatma becomes manifest as a spiritual master. In the way that he's not different from Krishna. He's representing Krishna. It's just like an ambassador. You know, when some ambassador is not treated very nicely by a foreign government, then this creates big problems, political problems. You know? Like there's one government now in the world that the leader, the president is offending, or how you say, so many other leaders in the world. Anyway, I didn't want to mention that, but it just went out. So Krishna, is a supreme personality of Godhead. I remember when Prabhupada founded ISKCON in New York. There was only a few devotees, very few devotees, neophyte devotees surrounding him. And Prabhupada wanted to create, establish the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And there was also a lawyer that was helping Srila Prabhupada. And this person said, why Krishna? Why don't we say International Society for God Consciousness? And Prabhupada said that this is not clear. This is not perfect. The Supreme Personality, God is actually, its original form is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God. Very clear, Prabhupada insisted. And all his preaching, when you hear Prabhupada preaching, I just heard a conversation Prabhupada had with the how you say, Bürgermeister, how is it in English? The mayor of Geneva, in Switzerland. When Prabhupada came to Europe, and Guru Goranga, he was at that time the leader in Switzerland, and he had made contact with the government. And so he wanted the government, or the mayor, to receive Prabhupada in what is it? The house, what is that? Rathaus? I don't remember. Anyway, so they went there. Guru Goranga took Prabhupada with a few other devotees. And the mayor was very formal and then Prabhupada started speaking. And he was explaining to the mayor what the real responsibility of a leader is. And he has to be conscious of God. He has to, because otherwise they're not leaders. They're just ignorant. And because they're not qualified as leaders, or real leaders, like it's mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, Kshatriyas, they're not qualified or well prepared as Kshatriyas, they just create confusion and havoc. And it's surprising how Prabhupada speaks so directly to the mayor about the importance of accepting the Supreme Person of God. Otherwise, they're not qualified as leaders. That's why we have this. You find in the Shastra, you find the Raja Rishi. Raja is king. And they were not just kings; they were saintly kings. They were highly qualified. They were servants of God, highly realized, and they were executing their duties under the order of the Supreme Person of God. And the most, actually, one of the most important quality of a kshatriya of a king or politician, is to see that certain groups in the society are properly protected. Starting with the brahmanas, they should be protected properly. That's like Chanakya Pandit. He was the first. He's described as first minister of the government, the king. And the king and Chanakya Pandit would never go into the palace of the king, to not become confused by the opulence and all this luxury and all this. And the king came out of the palace by feet. Normally they used to carry the kings in palanquins and whatever. But the king had to come by feet, come out. And when he asked advice from Chanakya Pandit, Chanakya Pandit wouldn't discuss He would just say, this is how it is, Jai, finished. Om Tat Sat. Yeah. And Bhagavad mentioned that under the guidance of Chanakya Pandit, at that time the Greeks, I think the Greeks, were entering into, were entering in the northern Indian part. And under the guidance of Chanakya Pandit, he was able to get them out there. Anyway, so the Brahmanas have to be protected properly. And then the cows have to be protected. Gomata. Mother cow has to be protected properly. Then the ladies, the women should be protected. The children should be protected. They have the tendency to degrade if they're not properly taken care of. Yeah. And also the old people have to be properly protected. Because old age is a very important part of life. Because you have to prepare for the most important moment in life, death. This is the exam that we have to pass. All life we should be preparing ourselves for that exam. How's that? Exam? But it's a Prüfung. And so, we remember Krishna at the time of death. Otherwise, we have to continue. Janma karma. We have to continue taking birth after birth. And it's a waste of time. Especially after so many, like I mentioned this verse from the Bhagavad Gita, Bahunam Jamanam Janavanam Papagit. That many births, after many births, we have achieved a human form of life. And now, Vedanta Sutra says, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Now, after all this path, now having achieved a human form of life, you should ask question about Brahman, about what is spirit, what is spiritual, what is Brahman, Parabrahman, Supreme Personage of God. And if you don't start, you're utilizing this life, this human form of life in this way, then it's very doubtful that you actually remember Krishna at the time of death. I heard that when a person is about to die, he's aware that he's supposed to die, that he thinks of the past, and how you say, and remembers the good moments in his life like that. Yeah, family and who knows what, maybe his money. Actually, so this is a very important moment, and that's why old people have to be protected properly. Very important. In the Western countries, families are used to send their old grandmother and grandfather to the old people's home. How you say? The old people's home. They want to forget about them. They don't want to see them. They don't want to. They're worried about them like that. Yeah. But in Indian tradition, in Vedic tradition, it's different. You have to take care very nicely. Of your father, your mother, your grandfather, like that. This is your duty. Anyway, I don't want to extend it unnecessarily. Maybe there's some questions or some comments. Where have you come from?
I'm from India, Hyderabad.
Hyderabad. Hare Krishna. You also?
Yeah.
Hyderabad. You came to the West to do business, or?
We came for studies.
Sorry?
Studies.
To study.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's many young Indians studying in Germany. Yeah, to get a big title and then have a lot of money, a lot of influence, right? Yes. Any question? You know ISKCON in Hyderabad?
Yeah, in Abits.
The ISKCON part, Light to Power part, or?
Sorry?
ISKCON part? ISKCON temple?
Yes.
No, very good. Any questions or comments? Yeah.
For me, it was interesting when you were speaking about that Srila Prabhupada met his spiritual master for the first time and said directly to him, I want you to go to preach this knowledge in the West. And actually Prabhupada said that he didn't want to go to see Bhaktisiddhanta. He was forced by his friend.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
because he has seen so many sadhus and he just, I don't want to see that.
His father used to always invite sadhus on the street. Yeah, and Bhagavan mentioned he was not very impressed by them. That's why that Prabhupada said that amongst his friends he was always a leader. So when the Gaudiya Math became very known in Bengal and Calcutta, so the friends were eager to know Prabhupada's opinion. And Prabhupada didn't want to see him. You're right. But the friends insisted. And then so finally he went with a friend. And then after hearing Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, they went out. And the friend asked, so what do you think? What is your opinion about this person? And Prabhupada said, actually I think the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are now in very good hands. Of course in Bengal, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is known, not necessarily as a supreme person of Godhead, but many have the concept that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a very nice Krishna Bhakta. Krishna Bhakta. We were traveling in the south once in India, and we were also preaching about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And most of the people had this concept that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna Bhakta, not the supreme person of Godhead. Yeah. Isn't it? Isn't it? Huh?
Sorry, I didn't.
You didn't understand? Yeah, that in India, many parts in India, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is only known as Krishna Bhakta, not as an avatar. Anyway, so any questions, comments? Srila Prabhupada ki, Srila Bhagavatam ki.
Bhakti Bhusana Maharaj ki jai.
Welcome, Hare Krishna.